What if the characters we've known all along aren't who we think they are? Picture this: two figures, Enil and Satan, both deeply entrenched in the lore of the Garden of Eden, yet shrouded in mystery and misconception. We've heard the tales, the age-old narratives that paint them in shades of good and evil. But what if there's more to their story? What if the lines between hero and villain aren't as clear-cut as we've been led to believe? Let's consider the possibility that these characters, so deeply ingrained in our collective consciousness, may not be as they appear. Perhaps their roles in the Garden of Eden are far more complex, more nuanced than the traditional narrative suggests. As we delve into this enigma, let's keep an open mind, for we are about to traverse a path less trodden, unearthing secrets and challenging long-held beliefs. Prepare to unravel the threads of a story you thought you knew. In the beginning, there was the Garden of Eden, a paradise crafted by the divine hands of Enil, a place of unmatched beauty and harmony where the first humans, Adam and Eve, lived in perfect unity with nature. Enil's only stipulation to this idyllic life was a single command: they must not eat from the tree of knowledge. Floating in the midst of this Edenic tranquility, however, was a figure of intrigue and mystery, Satan. Often portrayed as the embodiment of evil, Satan was the cunning serpent who, according to the traditional tale, beguiled Eve into defying Enil's command. Tempted by the serpent's promise of wisdom and knowledge comparable to that of Enil, Eve succumbed to the allure of the forbidden fruit. She shared it with Adam, and in that moment, the innocence of humanity was shattered. The repercussions were swift and severe. Enil, in his disappointment and wrath, banished Adam and Eve from the garden, condemning them and their descendants to a life of hardship and toil. Satan's role in this saga has been etched in our minds as that of the deceiver, the villain who led humanity astray. Enil, on the other hand, is often viewed as the benevolent creator, the figure of authority who bestowed life and then guided it with a firm yet loving hand. This is the story as we've known it, passed down through the ages, told and retold in countless homes and places of worship. It's a tale that has shaped our understanding of good and evil, of obedience and rebellion, of divine authority and human free will. But what if things didn't happen exactly as we've been told? Now, let's delve into the untold story. Enil and Satan, two characters that have been portrayed in a certain light for centuries. But what if there's more to the story? What if we've been missing out on some vital pieces of the puzzle? Let's rewind and take a fresh look at the tale from a different angle. We're familiar with Enil as the god of wind, air, and earth in some versions of mythology. He's often painted as a heroic figure, a champion of mankind. However, let's consider a different perspective. What if Enil wasn't just a hero? What if he had other, more complex motivations? Could he have been driven by his own wants and desires, rather than solely by the needs of humanity? Imagine for a moment that Enil didn't act out of pure benevolence. Perhaps he was motivated by the desire for power or for control over the earth and its inhabitants. This doesn't necessarily make him evil, but it does add another layer to his character. It makes him more relatable, more human. It shows us that even gods can have their own ambitions and flaws. Now let's turn our attention to Satan. Traditionally, he's been seen as the embodiment of evil, the ultimate antagonist. But what if there was more to him than that? What if, instead of being a villain, he was simply a misunderstood character? Consider this. Satan was once an angel, a being of light. He didn't start out as the enemy. So what led to his fall from grace? Could it have been a quest for knowledge, a desire to understand the workings of the universe? Perhaps he was driven by curiosity, not malice. Imagine Satan as a seeker of truth, a questioner of the status quo. Maybe he didn't intend to cause harm. Maybe he just wanted to explore, to learn, to grow. This perspective paints him in a very different light. It makes him more complex, more nuanced. It shows us that even the most vilified characters can have their own dreams and desires. So what does this alternative version of the story tell us? It shows us that characters aren't just black and white. They're a mix of different shades, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, hopes and fears. It reminds us that everyone has their own story, their own motivations, their own truths. And it makes us question what we thought we knew. It makes us wonder about the complexity of the world, about the many sides to every story. It makes us think about the nature of good and evil, about the blurred lines between hero and villain. This raises the question, who were Enil and Satan really? Enil, a figure of authority, but was he the hero we've been led to believe? Let's delve deeper and unmask Enil, a character often depicted as the embodiment of righteousness and order. We've grown up with the narrative that paints Enil in a light of divinity and supremacy, a figure who stands as a beacon of truth and morality. But what if we told you there's more to Enil than meets the eye? What if the traditional tales we've heard have only shown us one facet of a multifaceted character? Enil, just like any entity, was not simply black or white. His nature and actions encompassed a spectrum of shades, not all of them glowing. He was a figure of authority, yes, but his rule was not devoid of controversy. His reign, often seen as an era of divine justice and order, was also marked by instances of harsh decrees and severe punishments. Consider this: Enil was known for his wisdom, but was it always used for the greater good? There were times when this wisdom was wielded as a weapon, used to manipulate situations and individuals to his advantage. His authority was not always a protective shield for his subjects, but sometimes a tool for his personal agenda. Let's also not forget that Enil was a figure of immense power. But power, as we know, can corrupt, and there are instances in the lore that suggest that Enil was not immune to this. There were moments when his decisions were driven not by a desire for justice, but by his own ambitions and fears. Furthermore, Enil's interactions with other entities, including Satan, were not always characterized by fairness or compassion. There were instances of rivalry, of ego clashes, of power struggles. These interactions often led to outcomes that had significant consequences, not just for Enil and his adversary, but for the entire realm they inhabited. So, who was Enil, really? A hero? A villain? A complex character with both light and dark shades? It's not for us to label this legendary figure. Rather, our aim is to peel back the layers, to challenge the traditional perceptions, and to present before you a more nuanced understanding of Enil. The exploration of Enil's character brings forth the realization that figures of mythology, much like us humans, are complex and multifaceted. They are not simply heroes or villains, but entities with their own strengths and weaknesses, virtues and vices. Enil's true nature complicates our understanding of the story. But isn't that the beauty of it? The complexity, the depth, the layers that make the tale more intriguing, more engaging, and ultimately more human. After all, these stories are not just about gods and demons, but about power, choices, and the shades of gray that lie between the stark contrasts of right and wrong. Now let's turn our attention to Satan, a villain or a misunderstood character. Satan, the notorious antagonist in the Garden of Eden story, has long been portrayed as the embodiment of all things evil. But what if we've been looking at this figure all wrong? What if Satan isn't the villain we've been led to believe he is, but instead a misunderstood character who's been unfairly vilified? To understand Satan's perspective, we need to take a step back and consider his origins. In many interpretations, Satan was once an angel, one of the most beautiful and powerful in heaven. This paints a picture not of inherent evil, but of a being capable of both good and bad, just like us. Now let's delve into the crux of the matter, the incident in the Garden of Eden. Traditional interpretations paint Satan as the tempter, the deceiver who led humanity into sin. But let's challenge this view. What if Satan wasn't tempting Eve out of malicious intent, but rather to enlighten her? Consider this: the fruit from the tree of knowledge was forbidden by God. But why? Was it to protect humanity or to keep them in the dark? Could it be that Satan, in offering Eve the fruit, was not leading her into sin, but guiding her towards enlightenment, towards free will? In many versions of the story, Satan is portrayed as a serpent, a symbol which has been historically associated with wisdom and rebirth. So could it be that Satan's act was not one of deception, but of liberation? Could he have been trying to free humanity from a life of ignorance and blind obedience and lead them towards knowledge and independence? Of course, this interpretation is not without its challenges. Many will argue that Satan's actions led to the fall of humanity, to their expulsion from paradise. But consider this: without knowledge, without the ability to discern right from wrong, can we truly be free? can we truly be human? In this light, Satan's actions take on a new meaning. He becomes not a villain, but a liberator, a bringer of light in a world of darkness. He becomes a symbol of rebellion, not against goodness, but against ignorance and blind obedience. This interpretation does not excuse or glorify evil. Rather, it challenges our perception of good and evil and encourages us to question, to seek knowledge, to think for ourselves. After all, isn't that what makes us human? Satan's side of the story paints a different picture of the Garden of Eden. It invites us to look beyond the surface, to question our preconceived notions, and to seek a deeper understanding of the world around us. It reminds us that every story has multiple sides, and that to truly understand, we must be willing to look at all of them. Revisiting the Garden of Eden, the stage is set differently. In the heart of this story, beyond the lush foliage and serene tranquility, there's a narrative that has been overlooked for centuries, a narrative where Enil and Satan play pivotal roles. Let's step back into this divine garden, not as mere spectators, but as informed observers. Imagine Enil, not as the villain, but as a celestial being with a different perspective. He isn't the serpent, the deceiver. Instead, he is a divine entity, a guardian of knowledge, tasked with guiding humanity. Similarly, let's reimagine Satan. Often portrayed as the epitome of malevolence, we find him here in a different light. He isn't the antagonist, but rather a character misunderstood and misrepresented. He is the one who questions, the one who challenges, the one who pushes for progress. In this new understanding of the Garden of Eden, the forbidden fruit becomes less of a symbol of disobedience and more of a metaphor for enlightenment. It's no longer a curse, but a blessing. It's not about the fall of man, but about the rise of human consciousness. The garden, in this retelling, becomes less of a paradise lost and more of an incubator for growth. It's not about expulsion, but about evolution. It's not about punishment, but about understanding the consequences of one's choices. Enil, in this tale, encourages the pursuit of knowledge, the quest for understanding. He doesn't deceive, he enlightens. His role isn't to lead astray, but to guide towards enlightenment, towards the realization of human potential. Satan, on the other hand, is the advocate of free will, of choice. He doesn't tempt, he presents options. He doesn't lead to downfall, he fosters growth. His role isn't to corrupt, but to encourage questioning, to stimulate thought, to inspire progress. In this reimagining, the Garden of Eden becomes a stage where divine entities guide humanity towards enlightenment and progress. The forbidden fruit is a symbol of knowledge, of understanding, of growth. The serpent is not a deceiver, but a guide. The angel is not an adversary, but an advocate. This is not a tale of downfall, but a story of evolution. It's not about sin, but about the pursuit of knowledge. It's not about punishment, but about understanding the consequences of one's actions. So, as we step back from the Garden of Eden, let us carry with us this new understanding. Let us look beyond the traditional narrative and delve into the layers of complexity hidden beneath. Let us recognize the roles of Enil and Satan and understand their true intentions. The Garden of Eden was more complex than a simple paradise. Now, with a drastically different story in mind, what does this mean for us? The implications of this alternative version of the tale are far-reaching, challenging our preconceived notions and beliefs. Firstly, it invites us to question everything, especially stories handed down through generations. It is a stark reminder that history is often written by the victors, and we must strive to look beyond the surface. This reimagined narrative underscores the theme of deception. It implies that the characters we've been taught to revere might not be as virtuous as we've believed. It suggests that the ones we've been conditioned to fear or despise might not be inherently evil. It's a call to reevaluate our understanding of good and bad, right and wrong. Moreover, the real story shines a light on the power of perspective. It shows us how the same situation can be interpreted differently depending on the viewpoint. It brings to the forefront the idea that our perception is colored by our biases, and what we believe to be true might just be a reflection of our prejudices. It encourages us to broaden our horizons, to empathize with others, and to be open to different points of view. And finally, it underlines the importance of truth. It reminds us that the truth is not always comfortable or convenient, but it is necessary for growth and progress. It urges us to seek the truth, even if it contradicts our beliefs or challenges our worldview. It pushes us to be brave, to question, to learn, and to evolve. In essence, this alternative narrative is not just a retelling of an old story. It's a wake-up call, a challenge, a lesson. It's a mirror held up to society, reflecting our flaws, our biases, and our potential for change. It's an opportunity for introspection, for discourse, for growth. And so we come to the crux of the matter. The real story forces us to reconsider our understanding of good and evil. It compels us to question, to seek, to understand. It pushes us to evolve, to grow, to become better. It's not just a story, it's a catalyst for change. In the end, what can we learn from this reinterpretation? As we draw the curtains on this enlightening journey, we find ourselves standing at the crossroads of tradition and reinterpretation. The tale of Enil and Satan in the Garden of Eden, as we've discovered, is a story that runs deeper than we've been led to believe. Our adventure into the heart of this age-old narrative has revealed a new perspective, one that challenges the conventional interpretation and invites us to question and explore further. The story, as we've learned, isn't merely about a divine being and a fallen angel, but a complex interplay of power, deception, and the struggle for truth. Under the guise of Enil, we discovered a figure of authority whose actions and motivations were cloaked in ambiguity. His role in the Eden narrative was not as straightforward or as benevolent as traditionally depicted. Meanwhile, Satan, the proverbial antagonist, emerged as a character whose perspective was largely misunderstood and misrepresented. His actions, when seen through a different lens, painted a picture of rebellion against an unjust authority. Revisiting the Garden of Eden with this newfound understanding was like stepping into a different realm. The garden was no longer just a paradise lost, but a stage where a pivotal drama of power and rebellion unfolded. The real story unraveled before us, raising poignant questions about authority, truth, and freedom. It urged us to reconsider our own perceptions and beliefs, to not accept narratives at face value, and to seek the hidden layers beneath. So as we conclude our journey, let's carry with us the lessons from this reinterpretation. Let's remember to question, to seek, and to understand, for in the pursuit of knowledge lies the power to see beyond the obvious. The real story of Enil and Satan in the Garden of Eden reminds us that there's always more than meets the eye.